Hey, I'm Mitch.
And I'm Greg, and this is Sidenote.
A podcast where every episode we tell stories about and then debate a controversial topic.
And then we research and splice in all the mind-blowing shiznit throughout so you are entertained while simultaneously learning. Today we are talking about the Oscars. We are going to start by giving our opinions on the Best Picture nominees, some we loved and some we truly hated. Then we are going to get into a debate. Are the Oscars a culturally relevant spectacle, or should they just be canceled altogether? Today's Side Notes will be presented by me, Greg, and Rachel.
Hey peeps, let's get into it.
Charlie Puth were in the booth.
Oh,
did
Charlie
you like
Puth.
that?
When
I don't
you showed
like
me
telling-
that album, I was like into some of it, but not. I realized
I know, I don't like
listen to
telling
it
people how
anymore.
much I like Charlie Puth. It's fully embarrassing. He's mayonnaise, but a person.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know what you mean, but
I mean, I just don't think
wait,
he has
actually,
very much
why do people
spice.
use mayonnaise as like boring? Is it just a
Because
boring
it's
thing?
boring. It's just like a creamy sauce with no spice.
But it's eggs, and eggs are not boring one bit, girl.
But I think white people like them, and white people are boring. Like I love mayonnaise.
Why
It's
are
like
white
a go-to.
people boring?
Oh my God. Well, let's go through history. Okay. Well, you see, it's just the concept of anything exciting or spicy being foreign or different.
Okay. This is
anyways.
going to tie into our Oscars today. But how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. How are you?
I am yet again sick. What a coincidence.
On brand.
On brand. I'm getting through it, though. I have a bit of a sore throat. But
AKA you took Advil.
So I'm going to try not to cough too much into the mic today. But
Today's episode is sponsored by Advil, keeping us going through every situation. That's not true. But
Not
if
true.
you're, for some reason, working at Advil and you want to sponsor us, go for it.
What did we learn this week?
This week, I learned something related to the Oscars, which is related to this podcast.
Wow. Good job. Good job.
But it was kind of a coincidence. I don't know if I just saw it come up because it's Oscar season. It's actually about someone you love.
Oh, okay.
Kate
Can I guess?
Winslet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
You said it.
I thought you meant you had
I
to
don't
guess
think I
the
would have
fact.
said Kate Winslet. She was my
was
love,
your instinct?
like 5 years ago.
I'm hoping you don't know this fact. It was circulating the internet recently.
Wait, about Kate Winslet?
Yeah, she's like a
Interesting.
hot topic.
She's
right
been
now.
nominated for many an Oscar.
And did not win many an Oscar.
She won one for The Reader, I think.
Exactly. That's what
Oh.
I'm going to get into.
What?
Wasn't
Okay.
it called The Reader? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great book.
So Kate Winslet, what do you think she did with that Oscar?
I think she put it above her mantle, above her fireplace, and every night before bed when she sips a tea, she thinks, oh, wow, I'm quite professional, and I don't know.
That is not a bad guess, but Kate Winslet has explained that she keeps her Oscar in her bathroom so that when guests come over, they can give acceptance speeches in the mirror and not feel embarrassed.
Wow, that's
Isn't that
so
funny? Like, so you
fun.
can like go to Kate Winslet, and she says she always kind of knows when someone did it because they take a little longer after you hear the toilet flush, and then they come out with like rosy cheeks.
Does she have like antibacterial soap or things to
Yeah,
write down?
like a lot of
that
comments were like
Oscar?
that
is
is
not
like,
sanitary.
Like you hope they're respectful and wash their hands
Speaking of
before they
being
use
sick.
it. But an interesting tidbit about that Oscar that she won was she was in an episode of. So she famously didn't win a bunch. Like she was nominated.
She
many
didn't win for
times.
Titanic, and I mean,
Right.
she was so good at being Frozen and
Amazing
so
at
good at
Frozen.
saying,
Yeah.
spit like a man.
But basically, she was in an episode of Extras once,
Okay.
talking about how she doesn't like there's Oscar bait Holocaust films, like they're often created to win the Oscars, and then ironically later she won her Oscar for being in a Holocaust film.
The Reader, yeah. Okay, weird thing to say, in my opinion, just to start Kate Winslet.
Oh, for her,
Just like,
yeah.
oh, like, what are you talking about?
The other thing is I actually never watched Extras, and I'm like, what? Is that like, is it fully scripted? Is it?
It's supposed to, like, I think you play yourself in.
Right, like is she talking
Yeah.
about something maybe she actually does believe, or did someone just say this?
Okay, but still, I'm also just like weird opinion. Whenever I think about these like legacy actors, I'm like,
Well,
are they like, are you going to say
No,
something
I mean I
awkward
think
and
people
weird?
agree like there's a lot of actually amazing Holocaust films, but to a certain degree any great tragedy, often when it's being exploited for a film, is sometimes like it's going to be in that category of like
we'll get into
could win
this in the
Oscar.
debate. We'll get
True.
into this. Okay, so mine's also about the Oscars. My What Did I Learn This Week?
Ooh.
And it's about the statistics and the science of winning that Oscar pool. Have you ever done an Oscar pool where you vote? I love how I ask you questions like we haven't been dating for 10 years. Like totally, we've done Oscar pools.
We've been dating for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
First of all, I have
never. I've done one. You're right. I've only ever done it because you at home would like print them out and give them to everyone.
And you're always
just,
like makeup. You're like, yeah, Cindy, and you always lose, and it's like always the same.
And even
person.
like foreign films, I'm like, I have not seen any of these, but I wish and I should have.
Wow, open your mind, Mitch.
No,
Go
I
see
mean,
some foreign
what
films,
usually happens is
Mitch.
I watch them and then they're the best films of
Yeah,
all the
always,
Oscars.
like all of the Oscar
But I
movies.
often, or like short animated films and stuff. Like
Yeah,
I've never
we
seen
should
them. You
watch
just
those.
guess.
So the statistics of guessing the Oscars right is like what I was learning.
If you're
about
pure
this.
guessing, you mean?
Yeah, well, this
Or-
is based on statistics.
Okay.
So this is from 2014. It's a little bit dated. And so what happens
Statistics
is that,
have changed so much.
well,
since
I don't
then.
know. I don't know. The director of so who's going to win Best Director? You should look at the Directors Guild of America because there's an 80% chance that it will be the same director to win the Oscar. So this
Wait, what is that? Directors Guild America? What
It's
does
a
that mean?
separate award show.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
look to that, there's an
Okay.
80% chance that that's who will win Best Director.
Okay. Wow.
So this year,
Oh my gosh,
Alfonso
this is
Cuarón
actually
for
good
Roma.
advice. Like people can win money with this advice.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what you were doing. Okay.
Oh, didn't I not explain that? I feel like
Well,
sometimes
I
was
thought
like,
you just meant like if you fully randomly guess, statistically your chances of winning are blah.
He's like, oh, there's a 1 in 5 chance if there's 5
Yeah, I was like,
movies.
this is gonna be boring, but okay.
No.
Okay. No.
You
we're
always
here.
shade my
I'm here.
ideas.
No, it's a great idea. You're gonna help people win. What else can we learn?
Okay, so a Golden Globe winner is usually a 50% chance of winning Best Picture. So it's obviously good to go to the Golden Globe winners. That one's a little bit obvious. Male winners on average are 42 years old. Female winners 33. So when you look at the ages of the nominees,
Interesting. This is actually a debate point you just stole from me about why the Oscars are shitty.
Okay, I love the Oscars, Mitch doesn't. We'll get to that later. An Australian study, this is sort of separate, found that people talk about the Oscar bump. Like when you get nominated for an Oscar, it means that more people will see the movie. They found that that's like actually fully not true.
Interesting. Another one of my debate points are really helping
my
me
God.
here.
Okay, wow. Okay, anyways, these are just what I learned this week, the statistics
So how
of
does
the
that help you
Oscars.
pick?
No, this is a separate thing. This
Okay,
is just
stop stealing my points.
Okay,
really.
okay, fine.
Yeah, I need more stats on like how do I pick the winner.
Story time.
All right, so time to talk about the Oscars.
Ooh, I love the Oscars.
We will have
As
a
a
debate
gay, I
in
love
a
the
minute,
Oscars.
but today's going to be a little bit different because instead of just specific stories, we actually thought we would go through the top 2019 nominations for Best Picture. Is that what it's called? Best
Yeah, we
movie?
watched them. We have opinions.
We watched almost all of them, and we have very, very strong opinions on some of these.
Okay.
Some are different,
yes,
some are the same.
Some of these movies were trash. Okay, so
yeah.
let's go in order of us how we actually saw them, because as a couple we saw most of them together.
That's true.
So the first one we would have saw was the blockbuster Black Panther, nominated for Best Picture, directed
Okay.
by Ryan Coogler, who I love. So I personally, again, as I just said, love Ryan Coogler, the director. He made this movie called Fruitvale Station, which is so
I
good.
still haven't seen that.
I've been wanting you to watch it. It's on Netflix. It literally takes place
that's
over
so bad
a day.
that I haven't seen that.
Why?
It's like so easy for me to watch that.
No, I know. When everything's on, I'm always like, it's on Netflix. Like, you're lazy. Such a great movie. He also made Creed, which I watched like with my friend once because he wanted to watch it. I'm like, ugh, eye roll. This is gonna be so dumb. Never seen Rocky. Okay, yeah. Okay, come for me, straights. I've never seen Rocky. I obviously don't know anything about movies. I've never seen Rocky.
But you loved it, didn't you?
I loved Creed, and the fight.
You should go back and watch all the Rockies.
But
Then
okay,
you'll be like
the
truly
reason, yeah,
inspired.
but I don't know if I would love Rocky. I just based on like the trailer, I don't know if I'd love Rocky. But the reason I loved Rocky was this like the way the fight scenes were insane. They never cut, and he uses this cinematographer named Maurice Alberti and Rachel Morrison, both female cinematographers. For Creed, for Fruitvale Station, he has these like crazy scenes where he never cuts, which I loved. And the thing that bothered me about Black Panther is I didn't find they used that
Like he
enough.
didn't use that technique, which is like really effective that he's used in the past.
Yeah, they used it in that first fight scene in Black Panther when they're in the bar kind of thing. Like,
I can't forget. It was so long ago I watched this.
it's like one of the first main fight scenes when there's like the like evil white guy there with like the money and like she has the like spear and it's like so effective. And I was like, this is gonna be the best movie ever. But I found as it went on and on, they kind of lost that like magical like not cutting cinematography momentum, and all the fight scenes, in my opinion, became just like normal. Did you just burp?
I don't know. Something weird happened in my throat. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so I liked Black Panther. I didn't love Black
Yeah,
Panther.
I would say like the same thing kind of happens to me every time I go into a Marvel film that's been hyped.
That's true.
And what it is like you see, oh my God, this movie has 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. And your mind goes, whoa, this is so exciting. Like to combine an amazing action, huge blockbuster with the potential for a great story and like feeling captivated by characters is really exciting to me. And then almost every single time I go in to any of these Marvel films, the same thing happens where I go, that was really fun, but like that wasn't that good of a movie.
Like the superhero tropes take over sometimes.
Yeah. And you can tell that even these amazing directors are kind of like forced to go into that box because it's a huge risk. They spend so much money. Like the producers or whoever's funding it is like, you actually have to listen to
Actually, Black Panther is so good when you think about it from the perspective of
a
a Marvel movie.
It did, but in some ways it still had those tropes.
Yeah.
And I think because my expectations were so high, like I think going out of it, I really enjoyed it. I had fun. It stood out
and
to
Black
me
excellence
from,
to the max.
Yeah, and it stood out from other Marvel films for me. But at the end of the day, and like a year later or however long it's been now, I can say it was overhyped to that degree where it's like there are other films on this list that to me I was like, whoa, I have not seen movies like this and it's done something amazing to me
and
emotionally.
Also, like literally we're not black. Like if you think about that type of movie being made from like a queer perspective.
Yeah, if it was all
like
gay
literally just
characters,
like an unapologetically queer action movie, you would just be like, okay, this is it actually is incredible from the actual thought and like idea behind it being made.
I thought
and
it
made the most effing money. Like that like gets me so excited. And the music was incredible, like Kendrick Lamar's like
I don't mean to disparage it in any way.
No, but it's the same thing
that
I have
just
like
a category of film.
Every superhero movie. I'm always like, oh God. Like I just don't like these types of movies. Like Fruitvale Station was it was like experimental. It took place over one day. Like those types of interesting things when they work, I'm like, that's cool, but it's like you're right. Millions of dollars at stake. They have to do certain things. Anyways, it was better. Black Panther was a lot better than a lot of these other movies in this category, including our next one. Speaking of like queer canon, it's like I really thought I was gonna love this, but I'm like, this movie sucks. A Star Is Born.
Okay, don't say this movie sucks. Why? Do you actually think it sucks?
Okay,
actually maybe I agree.
Kind of like it's the hype thing. Like everyone at TIFF's like, oh my God, this masterpiece, and I'd never seen the original one, so I didn't know it had to like follow this plot. That's ridiculous. But okay, I don't know. Is suck a strong word?
No, it's not. I think that the first, and we've kind of talked about this, like the first 20, 30 minutes, I was like, I'm into this.
Okay,
like,
I was stoned, so I'm like, was it because I was stoned?
No, but I was not. And
okay.
I was like, okay, I'm feeling that like Willem and Shangela are in this. I'm loving the drag scene. Right? They were both in it, right?
Yeah. Mitch,
you scared me. You gave me a look.
Oh
like,
my God.
You were like, and I was like, did I just say the wrong drag queen's names?
Okay, I just have a resting dumb face.
I was like, okay, I get instantly that it's still a Hollywood film. It's going to be a little bit cheesy, but
it was like the Italian family, like Lady Gaga was being funny. It was like good.
I was like, already the music, I'm kind of into it. The music's not overly cheesy. Leading up to the main song of the film, like
Shallow was great. Turn it off.
I was like,
turn it off after Shallow.
Shivers into this, but then it just becomes the most boring movie I've ever seen.
And there's 2 extra hours.
Yeah,
and you're like, what?
That you already hit the climax, and now I have to watch for another 2 hours.
And it was so serious. It's like, this is actually hilarious. When Alec Baldwin says, ladies and gentlemen, Allie, I'm like, that's comedic genius, but I know you're actually being serious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My biggest issues with A Star Is Born. 1, what genre of music is the man supposed to represent that is so popular
and so artistically
artistic and smart? It's like it's like
credible,
bad
versus
alternative
she's
rock.
Pitched as like, oh, the pop is just awful.
It's like they were making fun of pop music. I'm like, this pop music is way higher brow than whatever like
agreed.
And whatever music he was making, he walks into a gay bar and they're all like, oh my God, it's that famous guy.
I was like, how'd this crossover happen?
Yeah, it's like he looked like to me it sounds like Kings of Leon or something. It's like if the lead singer of Kings of Leon walked into a gay bar, no one would bat an eyelash. They would just be like, oh, there's an alternative gay guy here.
Yeah.
But they were all like, whoa, it's him. So that was just unrealistic and dumb to me. The whole moral around the music of it, it's supposed to be about a movie about music. I'm like, this makes no sense.
And it was kind of bizarre in the sense that Lady Gaga represents that, and she's always kind of been like, pop is highbrow. I'm going to make pop highbrow. And I know this is a movie and she's playing a character, but someone mentioned once that it would have been more interesting if they actually made her music, like, why did it have to be bad?
Yeah, like, why did you do that?
And I mean, like, catchy song, but I mean, like, in the eyes of the people in the movie, they were all like, this music's bad, but it's like, then what? It would be interesting if it was like, no, she's actually making amazing music and he's having a hard time dealing with her fame.
And exactly. And also, okay, wow, this is how I know it's a bad movie, because I'm like, I can just keep talking. And remember when at the end, it's like the manager comes between them as if they have this amazing relationship.
Strongest
and
relationship.
They're like, so, like, okay, yeah, wow, he has daddy issues, I guess. And like, she, like, I don't know, like, they like try and build them up a little bit, but they're communicating, they're in love.
And they never really have a problem in
like,
their relationship.
There's no issue. It's like, why would this manager's like one sentence cause you to literally, spoiler alert, but whatever, you don't need to, like, kill yourself? It's like, no, talk, have a conversation, because you're clearly in love and you clearly talk all the time.
And they pulled the trick of like using the dog.
Remember? Oh yeah, like what's that
when
called? Dog tragedy porn?
I don't know. It's like, yeah, the dog was that actually is what made me feel emotional. I was like, you cheated and you used a dog being sad about its owner dying.
Also, like, Bradley Cooper, you're so effing creepy to like direct a movie where you're like ripped and hot and have no problems and like are a flawless person.
That's true. His only problem was his like
a martyr for your
whatever.
wife and then like die.
Yeah.
And also, alcoholics don't have ripped bodies like that. Then put just like anyways, so bad.
Fair.
But
I think that overall, we obviously like have some feelings. I feel that people want to,
as
like,
a gay man, I was betrayed
because I was proud of Lady Gaga. I'm like, for somebody, it's her first debut acting role. Not that I think she necessarily deserved Best Actress, but I was like,
and get
good,
some
good
humbleness. Now she's just like,
there
she
can
goes,
be
I'm crying.
100 people in a room.
But she's always crying, and she's like, "Oh my God, I want to come and blah, blah, blah." It's like, stop crying, like, relax. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're overreacting. If you just watch this movie again, you might be like, oh wait, it's really not that interesting.
Right.
But I will say, it's divided the nation, because when I watched
the gay nation.
Well, no, this person is gay, but is a lesbian. But when I was sitting next to one of my best friends at the end of this movie, when Lady Gaga's single tear falls down her cheek as she sings a Whitney Houston song or whatever, I started laughing. My friend beside me uncontrollably sobbing her eyes out. I'm like, I'm dead inside. I literally laughed out loud. And my other friend, because every gay person in Toronto was there opening night on a Tuesday, was like, I heard you laugh, like, at like the most like awful time. But I was like, there's nothing but humor that I can find in this moment, because it's so
like over the top, just like contrived.
Okay, wow.
Okay,
moving on.
Very strong feelings came out about A Star
I
Is
had
Born.
to even talk about that movie. Next, we have what we saw.
I'm going to quickly mention that there are two we did not see.
Okay, yeah, well, why are we talking about that?
I just want to say, so you know, we're not going to look at Green Book and Vice because we didn't see those ones.
So I've heard just so many bad things. And after seeing Bohemian Rhapsody, which we'll get to later, which everyone had said bad things about, I'm like, I can't watch these movies that everyone said bad things about. Green Book sounds so
which
bad.
one was the next one that we watched?
Roma.
So
now we will change the tone for this masterpiece.
Roma was amazing.
Amazing. Okay, so my favorite director is Alfonso Cuarón, who directed this movie. So I went in, like with Black Panther and A Star Is Born, with very high expectations. So I want to like preface that.
But did we know what kind of reviews they were getting before?
I did. It was the same thing out of Toronto.
Like people saying, like,
everyone's saying it's so good. The same thing as A Star Is Born.
Also, loved that we watched it on Netflix.
Yeah, I didn't see it, even though people say because of like the shots it's worth seeing in theaters. I would
have been happy to see it in theaters, but I also was like, that's cool. I'm into this idea of like launching a film.
Okay, so Alfonso Cuarón, back to like not cutting and just like designing scenes. Like, he also uses a cinematographer that he's famous for who doesn't cut, and I'm like, this is the most effective. I don't know anything about like filming whatever like cinematography, but it works. Like in Children of Men, the best action movie of all time, he has a scene where he doesn't cut, and I tell people about this all the time.
Multiple scenes, actually.
Or sorry, but the final battle scene or action scene is I don't know. It's the most unbelievable thing I've seen, and he uses that in this movie. A very emotional, you know, serious. There's no action in this movie, but it gives that same effect.
And it gives you the appreciation of like they're actually acting all in this moment and coordinating. It's like a dance with the cameras and the actors. And I find that fascinating because then it's more like a play. And I feel like it gives the actors a chance to have an entire scene.
And be in
you get
it.
Instead of like, here, let's just
like
record these couple of lines only facing on you. It's like, no, everyone's involved. The whole crew, the whole cast, go.
The long take. Everybody loves it. My recent fave long take scenes are one in Homecoming where Julia Roberts in the first episode walks across the Homecoming premises with no cuts. It's beautiful. One of the ones that really stick out for me in Children of Men is when they are driving in a car with Julianne Moore and Clive Owen and some others, and all the enemies start running down from the woods. Then a motorcycle crashes into them, and it's sort of the whole time you're thinking, like, how did they do this? Filmmakers and cinephiles alike consider the tracking shot, aka a long take without cutting, to be something worth admiring. It obviously takes technical brilliance, teamwork, and coordination, and a lot of planning to pull these scenes off. Other iconic examples are from films like Touch of Evil and Goodfellas, and show how these long takes can respectively highlight tension or explore the themes of the film. Another amazing take that highlights the theme of a film is from the recent movie Widows, where Colin Farrell, a politician, leaves a opponent's campaign headquarters, which is in a lower income neighborhood, and drives to his own mansion and house in this rich neighborhood. And it sort of specifically highlights how close affluence and poverty can reside to each other in major cities. And action films also love these scenes as they can capture the realism of the fight. For example, Old Boy and The Protector, Atomic Blonde, and even the Daredevil show on Netflix all have extended action and fighting scenes that use the long take to great effect. Here at Sidenote, we want to know, what are your favorite long takes? What are your favorite tracking shots? Which ones have made you sort of think after the movie, like, that specific scene was amazing? Let us know using the hashtag Sidenote Podcast, and also look at other people's. You might get inspired to watch a new film. Okay, it was just the most beautiful story. It was so moving, and I remember a lot of people talk about how, it's black and white. Like, we even said, are we in the mood for this?
That was a red flag for me. Yeah,
but like, you think, it's foreign, it's like gonna have subtitles, and people think it's gonna be boring. But remember, 5 minutes in, we just looked at each other and we're like, I'm so
how
into
does
this.
the movie? It's amazing. So contrasting like a Marvel film, we can use Black Panther as an example here, but just any Marvel film in general. Like, often what I find lacking is that true character connection. But then you see a movie like Roma and you're like, how come in 5 minutes I can be so connected to these characters, but after an entire 2 hours of a Marvel film...
I'd say A Star is Born. Black Panther, I thought, actually did an amazing job of you carrying in a Marvel film. I guess I more just mean, like, I'm always wondering why, like, sci-fi specifically has a hard... Sci-fi to me, like, struggles with character connection because it's so conceptually based. Yeah.
And then I wondered if that bleeds into, like, action and Marvel films
Men was sci-fi.
That's true. But I'm picturing, like, space... Like, a lot of space movies that I love, I don't love for their character development. I love because the concept and the visuals and that sort of thing. But then you see a movie like this and you're like, why can't a Marvel film or why can't a sci-fi film take 5 minutes to build a character that this film was able to do by just being simple, showing us the intricacies of their life that's nuanced. It's not, I can never remember this word, but it's not like when you literally just say, like, instead of
show, don't
us,
tell.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do, is show, don't tell. But some movies tell, don't show. Like, Bohemian Rhapsody, the worst movie.
So Roma, like, and it's like a simple story. It's not overly complex, but it's very interesting.
And so, like, it's about the director's, as a kid, relationship with the person who helped look after his family in Mexico City. Like, it's obviously like a tale of love for this person who is so endearing in the movie, and such a brilliant actress who'd never acted before.
Yeah. That blows my mind when people are in films and then they're like, they found them on the street. They had never acted before.
It makes me feel a little bit like, okay, like when people are like, I like won this Oscar, I'm like, okay, like I guess anyone could do that. Like, I know that's so rude, but I'm like, everyone's so obsessed with acting. I'm like, it's not that hard. Like, there's harder things to do. Like, I don't know, like physics. Anyways, but she's the most amazing actress in this movie. So is the mom. What I think is so important is that in other movies, they would have treated the mom character as like mean or like rude, and like that would be the tension. But no, when this like caretaker comes to her in times of need, the mom is like vulnerable and open, and they work together to help each other like fight off like essentially like patriarchal issues in their lives, like men. And it's just like,
so layered,
so smart. Yeah,
it's like she can be good and bad at the same time. Every character can do things where you think they're going to be set up as the bad person, but then you're like, wait, no,
that's not
you're
life.
A human being.
Like, you're a human being.
And I think that's why a film like this can be so incredible, because it's based on Alfonso Cuarón's like life growing up, right? I think it's like a personal experience to him. He saw the nuance in the characters before he created this, and I feel like then the actresses and actors understand that. And there's so much more realness to it.
And it's not boring.
You're a
There's
human.
so much thing happening. Like you're learning about the history of Mexico. The final scene is like a literal climax. Like it's just the most brilliant movie. And when you put it beside something like A Star Is Born, or more importantly, like the other worst movies in my opinion, like Bohemian Rhapsody, it's like I'm like offended that Bohemian Rhapsody has to sit beside this movie that was so thoughtful and like. Anyways, Alfonso Cuarón's a genius. Watch E. I said this recently. Someone was like, "Watch Y Tu Mamá También." I'm like, there's nothing more pretentious than being like, "Oh, have you seen Y Tu Mamá También?"
No, but that's a really good movie.
Yeah,
too.
Y Tu Mamá También, so good. Oh my God, hot, sexy. Also, like a metaphor for like Mexico's like it's about politics. It's so much more than that. Watch Children of Men. Watch the third Harry Potter
about,
that he directed.
Masculinity?
Yeah, it's about masculinity and about like a political turmoil. It's like, yeah, he obviously is a man who's able to look at himself.
Yeah,
with
be introspective, talk about societal issues that are greater than one individual, but represent them through individuals. I think that's really cool.
Oh my God. Okay,
I think because you've mentioned it so much, we should just quickly talk about Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh my God.
Okay, you obviously already know our feelings.
Because we watched it last night. I can't stop.
So we stopped it an hour and a half in.
No, not an hour. Oh, an hour and a half in. There was like an hour left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair to say. People might get mad about that because apparently the Live Aid concert at the end is so fun to watch, but they even got that wrong.
What happened to me is I thought watching it, and this is exactly what we did, I was like, I would way rather just watch actual clips of Freddie Mercury in interviews and performing right now.
Yeah, which we
did
did
that's
after.
effectively what this movie is. There's no real cohesive story. Not to mention, I looked it up, and half of the things in the movie are not even accurate portrayals of what happened, which is frustrating to a lot of people. But I was just like, it all felt so disjointed. I was like,
I
what?
thought we downloaded the wrong version. I was like, okay, we downloaded this movie. Don't come for us, Canadian
reminds me
government.
of like
but I was
one
like,
time
what?
off topic. We were watching. You were like, there's this clip of like Aladdin the musical on YouTube, and we started watching it. We were like,
so
this
bad.
is really bad. Like, how do people love this? It's gone to Broadway. That is so weird. And then I was like, this can't be it. It's so bad. It turns out it was like a performance at Disneyland for children. Anyway, that reminded me of Bohemian Rhapsody. Where we're like,
Bohemian
is this the
Rhapsody
movie?
was a Disneyland live attraction, like
That's
theme park
a perfect
version of a
analogy.
movie.
It's like it gets the people in, just gives you a bit of feel good here, a bit of one liner here.
It was so
but no
bad.
substance.
Speaking of show don't tell, tell don't show.
Yeah.
Like it was like they would like there's
like,
that one moment where the dad's like, well, when I sent you away to try and make you turn into a real man. It's like, what?
Yeah,
like,
and then moments later, like he gets the news that he's like gotten on the radio or some record company wants them, and it's like, okay, this is like a little on the nose.
It was so bad, and like it's crazy to me that so many people like it. It made so much money, and I was just like, I'm like, what?
I think there's the Queen effect in there because like Queen and Freddie Mercury are
Just
so
want that story.
iconic, and it is nice to see it represented, and it is an interesting story. The music is amazing because it's literally Freddie Mercury and Queen, so there's those levels to it that can be enjoyable.
Okay, but then on top of all of this, it's directed by Bryan Singer, who left like 3 weeks before it ended. Mostly directed by Bryan Singer. So then I just started like reading all the articles about his allegations. He's a literal rapist, and like it's like, okay, there's not only is this movie just like bad when you watch it, it's boring and it's a slog and it's like poorly done, and it's like also like directed by a literally like evil person who, and it's just anyways, I just can't believe.
Yeah, I would say unless you're obsessed with Queen, skip it. I really love Queen, but I still was just like, that's why I would way rather just turn on
one
YouTube
point
and
they
watch.
like show up somewhere at a building, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. What building is this? And the guy gets out and goes, a recording studio?
Yeah,
and it's like, okay,
like,
yeah, that's telling, not showing. It's like, okay, why?
And just something about it kept jumping around, and like apparently the story of how he joined Queen is just fully fabricated.
And his mouthpiece, I'm sorry, that's the whole time I'm like, you're, what's his name, Rami Malek?
Yeah.
With a mouthpiece. Like, I'm not believing that you're Freddie Mercury because the whole time you're trying to push it back in your mouth.
So it was over the top. And yeah, usually when someone does that to their body or face, it's supposed to be so part of them that you don't even notice it.
You
It
have
just becomes a
millions of
character.
dollars.
But all I could think about the whole time was like, this is Rami Malek dressed up in like a
Yeah.
crazy over the top mouthpiece. It didn't work.
And they just said, like, they just were like, oh, gay people just stare at each other with eyes. Like, it's like they'd be like,
Yeah, there was no
there was
context or subtleness to the gay interaction. And I did look it up after, and it is true that he loved his like wife that he, I don't know if they were married, sorry, but like Mary Austin, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Like he always considered her his best friend. There was a moment during the film where I was like, why are they focusing on his love with this female? But he did always
but it was
feel
so
attached
straight
to her.
washed, even though it was directed by a gay rapist. Okay,
Anyway,
wow. Moving
I
on.
would give it a 1 out of 10.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, I didn't finish it, so I don't know if I can like fairly assess
That's
it. But
true.
I don't usually not finish movies. I was
Me
like,
either.
this is
I
the
can't
worst.
remember the last movie we didn't finish. What do you want to do next? BlacKkKlansman could be one.
LA. That's a weird movie.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this. I was really into it. Like, I loved watching it. And I feel like the premise and the setup was great, but the final execution, I think, fell apart.
They created such cool tension. It was such an interesting plot. Like, Spike Lee has a cool way of filming that I actually was like, okay, this is like different and interesting. And I actually started to think this is awesome that this has been propped up and lots of people are seeing this movie. But the tension was great, and then it just sort of like...
It's like they didn't take advantage of all this. Like, there's
balloon.
literally like terrifying moments where you're like scared they're gonna get caught, scared they're gonna be like found out on screen. People being like, "Wait, is that not the cop that busted me once? That he's a spy?" And then nothing happens to it. So you feel tension, but then there's no actual release. It's just like fizzles and goes away.
The one thing, though, that's really interesting is in the last 5 minutes, it becomes a movie that's actually literally being like, Donald Trump is a white supremacist.
Yeah.
And I think that is true. And so, therefore, I think that in that context, I'm like, okay, this
At
movie
the end, you're
was,
like, "Whoa, this
Yeah.
was built for this part."
which I think is like, obviously, if you're going to have the platform to make movies, it's like really cool if you have a strong political stance. But up until that point, as a movie, I was like, there's, again, the same thing with Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm like, are we watching the right version? Like, are parts edited out? Because, like, it's literally confusing. And when I think about directors of movies and editing, it's like, okay, whoever directed both of these movies, I don't think it can be their masterpiece, unlike Roma, because I'm like, there's actually moments where I'm like, that actually just doesn't really make sense. The whole plot about them being two people and using the phone, it's like, wait, you would just be like,
So
there was
basically,
a flaw
in this
the
film,
plot.
like they're pretending to be someone who's interested to be a Klansman, but because the main protagonist is black, they need another white guy to actually go to the events and pretend to be him. But it's like they're so worried about their voices being
It's like, why
different.
wouldn't he just pick up the phone
It's
instead
like
of the other
then
guy?
the white guy should just be the one on the phone as
Yeah.
well. It's very strange that, and then that creates tension because they're like they're gonna get caught, but then you're like, why?
Someone
are
would
they
have had a
making
meeting
this
like,
so complicated?
Buddy, I think I have a simple solution to this.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just like
Like you
direct
can still be part of the
this?
investigation, just like why doesn't the same person play
Pick
the
up
character?
the phone. Yeah.
It's
But I
very
mean,
weird.
it was really fun to watch like white supremacists literally
Yeah.
get like killed.
It was a good-
and like,
Yeah.
like just like
It was satisfying in that
embarrassed.
sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like it, and I really liked that it actually had a point.
And it was
that
unique.
Stuck
It was
to.
a cool storyline.
Yeah.
I was into it, but felt that.
Like better than A Star Is Born and better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yeah, I think so for sure.
Okay, now another. In my
This is our
opinion,
final one, right? 'Cause we haven't
masterpiece.
watched
The
the other two.
Favorite was so good.
So I also just watched The Favorite. You watched it a while
and you didn't
ago.
like The Lobster, this director's other movie, which I loved.
Correct.
So you were
I
nervous
thought
going
it was
in.
a cool concept, The Lobster, but once they killed a dog in it, and any movie that kills a dog on screen is banished for me.
Fair enough.
That's unacceptable. It's just like A Star Is Born. They used a dog inappropriately. In that movie, they fucking killed one. Anyway, this movie was actually so good.
The Favorite
The
was so
Favorite.
good. It's hilarious.
It's so well
interesting.
executed. The costumes, the set, the acting, the every level of
The
it.
concept.
Yeah, like
and it's
the-
true story. Like I embellished
which blew
a bit,
my mind. I
but
only knew that because you had told me going
I
into
was like,
it.
"There's no way this is true." Then I Wikipedia'd it after, and I was like, "Genius!"
Like,
to make this
so
so thrilling
good.
and hilarious, and I loved that movie.
I think it was really unique. Yeah, just something about it really stood out to me. It was enjoyable. It was
the
funny. It was
acting
serious.
incredible.
It was scary. Like,
queer.
yeah, like I don't know what else to say about this movie other than like
Go
I think
see it. Form your own
The
opinions.
Favorite and Roma to me are like those movies that
Oh,
are
wait.
like it just stands out as such a unique film that was so well executed, and I don't really have. I'm sure if I watched many times, I might have minor criticisms here and there, but overall, like really enjoyable.
And now let's just get into the two we didn't see. Okay, like Green Book, literally, like I do not want to see this movie. I heard it's so
Trash. No, I can't say that 'cause I
problematic
watched it.
and weird and just whatever. And Vice, even it's like The Big Short, like the director of The Big Short, and I know we probably should have watched them for the whole scope of things, but when I've read enough about them and hear that they're bad, like I even forced myself to watch Bohemian Rhapsody, and I'm like, damn it, why did I waste my hour and a half? That whatever, you can say what you want about those movies, but
That
don't
one's
wanna see
especially
them.
weird though because the audience versus critic reaction has been like the audiences loved it, but critics hated
Because
it.
people love Queen. Are you talking about Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yeah, that's right. But that was what threw me off because there was good ratings about it. But whereas anyway,
Okay, so there's only two more things I want to say.
Okay.
So the one thing I want to say is this idea about how everyone just needs to realize that these movies, they are all so queer. and not one queer person played a it's like, it is insane to me that it's 2019. Why can we not do this? Okay, Mahershala Ali in Green Book is a queer person. Okay, so he's straight. The Favorite, all three of them are essentially queer. All three straight. Okay, Bohemian Rhapsody, queer. Played by, it's just like, it's actually kind of, at this point, I'm just like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Like, why can't a single queer actor be hired?
I know. And it's just, I don't know. It really bothers me. But then on top of that, I just want to talk about one other thing, which is a movie called Can You Ever Forgive Me, which wasn't nominated for Best Picture or for Best Director, but in my opinion was incredible. And it's the one with Melissa McCarthy and her friend, and she's nominated. So it's like in the Oscar world right now. So this movie's so good. It's so simple. Also queer. Again, Melissa McCarthy, not queer, plays a lesbian. Here we go again. But the director of this movie, it's such a simple, beautiful, hilarious, good movie, is a woman, and she is left out of the Best Director category this year. And to think that some of these other people are in these Best Director, like
having watched these films.
Yeah, even like Spike Lee, I'm like, this isn't his like masterpiece.
Greg brings up a really interesting point. BlacKkKlansman, in the eyes of many critics, is not Spike Lee's masterpiece. Do the Right Thing, however, absolutely is. It's one of the only movies ever to be selected by the United States Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry during its first year of eligibility, and is arguably one of the most powerful American films about race.
Doctor? Come on, what? Always do the right thing.
But in 1989, it did not receive a Best Picture nomination. Spike Lee was snubbed. The Academy has done this before. In 1974, both Al Pacino and Jack Nicholson were up for Best Actor. Al Pacino in The Godfather 2.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
And Jack Nicholson for Chinatown.
But Mrs. Mulray, I goddamn near lost my nose, and I like it. I like breathing through it. And I still think that you're hiding something.
Two incredible performances, but they both lost to Art Carney for his role in Harry and Tonto, a story of a man on a road trip with his cat.
So he's packing up his faithful sidekick Tonto and running away from home.
Art Carney was considered due to win. To make up for this blunder, Jack Nicholson was awarded Best Actor the following year, and Al Pacino would win in 1992 for his slapstick portrayal of a blind, retired war veteran in Scent of a Woman.
Would you like to learn to tango, Donna?
Definitely not his best work, but he was nominated and lost 7 times prior, so in the eyes of the Academy, he was due to catch a break.
You broke my streak.
This is why many conclude that the awards are more often a reflection of lifetime achievement than a reflection of current work.
Or whatever, like, I'm just like, this is weird. There's this other movie like that just randomly gets a Best Director nod that's like not even in Best Picture. I'm like, why? Hollywood is so messed up. I'm like, this is, in my opinion, of all the movies that I saw other than Roma and The Favorite, like the best directed movie, because it's like, oh, this script is simple, but it's because of the way that it was made and executed that it's so good. And yeah, now it's just all men who are in the Best Director category. So
that is frustrating. I want to say for the end of this segment, it's been longer than normal, but let's do one final thing. Who do you want to win? Who do you think will win?
I want Roma to win. And like in some like sad, twisted way, I think like because of the world, like Green Book's gonna win or something.
I guess it's hard because we haven't seen those. Do you think so?
Well, because when I think about the Oscars, I know I'm defending in the debate that they should still exist. When you think about the Oscars, it's all political and it's all like they have so many industry insiders. But actually, you know what? I'm going to say
Roma.
You
think of the winners?
Actually, I'm going to say I think Roma's going to win.
Yeah. I think so too, but that'll be interesting. Do you think because it was on Netflix, it might get some docked marks from people?
Oh, true.
Because
that's
like
what I mean. There's so many other
industry.
things behind, but I'm going to say Roma across the board.
Okay. This is so hard. Yeah, for me, it's between Favorite and Roma, and I could go either way. And I just saw The Favorite, so I feel like it's fresh in my mind. Like, I kind of want The Favorite to win, but I also love Roma so much. I can't choose. and I just have this
Say which
feeling.
one you want and which one you think. That's what you have to say.
Okay, I want Roma to win.
Okay.
No, Bohemian Rhapsody can't. There's part of me that thinks it's going to win. No,
I will
can't.
flip my TV over. Well, actually,
I think, yeah. Okay, I'm going to pick the same as you. I think Roma's going to win.
Okay, good. Well, that'll be a nice night for cinema. Wow, that was a lot. I hope people are like listening.
Are you still here? Hello?
Are you guys listening?
Are you guys still here?
We're yelling. I know we're yelling, but are you listening to this?
Okay, we're going to go away, but we will come back and have a true debate on whether or not the Oscars should even exist at all.
Thank you all so much for listening to Side Note. We are so happy that our voices get to go into your ears every week. And make sure that you follow our new Instagram at SideNotePod for behind-the-scenes footage. And leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. We love to read them and see what you're saying. Now, let's get back into the final debate. So today's debate is about whether or not the Oscars should exist at all. Oh my gosh. So I, Greg, am a huge fan of the Oscars, and I'll be debating that, yes, the Oscars are extremely important and should continue.
Okay. And I believe that the Oscars are worth crap all.
Whoa.
And that they should be completely and utterly canceled, and I have the stats and proof to explain
Canceled
why.
culture. Okay, here we go. Mitch, you're going to go first.
Okay.
Just because you are. Okay?
Okay.
Don't question me.
Okay.
1, 2, you know what to do, and go.
Debate time.
Okay, so first of all, they're so boring, and people don't even watch them. The 2018 Oscars was the lowest rated Oscars of all time, and I think you may have mentioned this earlier, but they literally have no impact on box office success. There's been a handful of studies that have looked into it, and sometimes it seems they do, but overall, there's no consensus over whether they help films at all. There's extreme bias in them, so it's made up of people who are on average 49 years old. So that means average is a lot of old people, 93% white people, and 76% men who are like rating the films and giving their nominations and stuff. And when people of color do win, it's often based on racial stereotypes. And if you speak out, like sometimes people are like, oh, the Oscars is a great chance for actors to be activists and whatever. It's like, no, there's been actors who have been banned. So Richard Gere was banned for 20 years for calling out China's treatment of Tibet. So it's only on the Oscars terms when they think it's important. And also, let's not forget the hashtag #MeToo movement. It's like people part of that entire industry were okay dealing with that stuff as long as it didn't hurt their careers and they could suck up to the people that mattered most and they weren't willing to expose. So much for being activists. It's also rigged in favor of movies that are like pretty boring. Like I know La La Land didn't win eventually. Is that what it's called? LA Land?
LA Land. Okay.
But basically, it's like a weird voting system where, like, if a movie is controversial, it's more likely to do worse. And also, so many awards are given based on merit. So people aren't necessarily like I know you don't love Lord of the Rings, but like the third one won, and it definitely was not the best one. But they thought like, wow, this series was so impactful, we should give it. And a lot of actors and actresses win just because it's like they're due for an Oscar. Stupid. Fake. Also, some campaigns literally spent millions of dollars. So Shakespeare in Love spent $16 million to outbeat Saving Private Ryan by including paying people to say bad things about Saving Private Ryan.
Wow.
So I'm going to end there because I have more to say, but the Oscars should be canceled. Good night.
Okay, you brought up some really interesting, controversial subjects that make me think the Oscars are, really interesting.
What?
Like,
Okay.
I mean, that's all, like, I found that stuff all really interesting, and I'm, like, excited for this year.
Okay, that's not what that was supposed to do, but are you ready to bring on your pro-Oscar points?
Yes. Okay.
All right, you can start anytime.
Okay, so you're right. The Oscar viewership has decreased a lot, but I would argue that a lot of people are, like us, going on Reddit, finding the best live stream. That's not going into the Nielsen reports. That's how we watch any live event now as millennials. Also, it's aired in 225 countries across the world. So yeah, the viewership might have gone down in America, but it's pretty insane to think about the actual impact that these award shows have on the world. People around the world tune in to watch Hollywood, and I think that that's really important because yes, you are in fact right that the voting panel is extremely old, extremely white, and extremely male, and extremely hetero. But in the last few years, they've panicked about that, the Academy that is, and they've added 1,600 of around 8,000 people into it who are younger, more diverse when it comes to race and sexuality because they want to change this. And I think that this is an important thing because, as I said, 225 countries are watching this and they're seeing movies like Moonlight, which, you know, it's a queer movie about people of color and like it's just fast.
1 minute.
Wow. I always feel like I just okay, yeah. It's like Roma, The Favorite. Like, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Call Me by Your Name. I'm just focusing on a lot of like queer movies, but the fact that the world tunes in to see these movies get highlighted, I think is extremely important, and it shows where we are as a society when it comes to movies. And I think that's my next point, is that looking back on the Oscars, they become like a time capsule for culture. Like, I mean, obviously like Western culture, but it's still really interesting to at least look at them critically throughout the years. Like, what did people care about at the time? And
30 seconds.
Do think that it is a chance for people to get up in front of an audience of many people and say whatever they want. And you're right about Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins. They were talking about the 266 Haitian people who were in Guantanamo Bay for being HIV positive. They're saying, why are they being held? Being HIV positive is not a crime. And they got that out there to say something like that a long time ago when that was a big deal. Sure, the Oscars got mad, but they still got to say it. And that still happens.
Time.
Wow. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so let's open up the conversation. If you had other points you want to talk about, like, we can talk about them openly. So your main argument is just that the Oscars are a place for what? Like activism? Is that what you think?
Well, I think that they are. I think that
because lots of people are watching.
Okay, people from around the world are watching this award show, okay? People get to go up and say whatever they want when they win their Oscar, and people get to listen to them. And I think it's so boring when people don't say, and when they're actually like thanking their friends and family. I'm always like,
yeah, I'm like, you need to cut this out.
Yeah, your manager knows that you love
the
them.
Oscars, that's what makes the Oscars boring to me. It's like I understand appreciating people, but like being on stage saying people's names doesn't really mean anything to viewers. I love when there's like an impassioned speech about things.
And that's what I think really is their benefit. When you think about a lot of these movies being forward thinking, being challenging, and then people going up and talking and like using it as a platform, I think celebrities, like whatever. We live in a society where they have so much power, they have such I'm going to say speakerphone. What's the word? When you go...
Megaphone? They have such speakerphone.
Like at a rally when you yell into the megaphone. They have a megaphone, and it's a really cool place for them to actually say things. They've done it throughout the years.
But they have a megaphone their entire lives. Why do they only use it at the Oscars?
Because so many people are watching that. It's a live event that everyone is tuning in for, and when people take the opportunity to use it to say something important, I think that's why the Oscars are cool and should continue. And the fact that they're diversifying their academy, I think in the future we're going to see more films that
really
challenge
have to
people.
Do with the Oscars, like people taking advantage of the Oscars to tout like activist messages? Like the Oscars doesn't encourage that. They don't say use our platform to have a social message and do good in this world. Like they literally, in fact, probably don't want that because it's like out of their control. So you're saying you like the Oscars because the people who are giving speeches can hijack it for reasons that it's literally not designed for.
Yes.
Okay.
In short,
just
yes.
wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yes, I do think that. And I do think that like the movies, especially that we've seen as of late, minus Vice, Green Book, Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, even Bohemian Rhapsody is like a queer, it's a poorly told queer story. Wow, I need to like figure out my opinion. But I mean, a lot of these movies are challenging. They are representing what people are thinking about right now in the zeitgeist. I know it's problematic, but the world is problematic. Hollywood is problematic. And sometimes when we look at the Oscars is when we get to go, oh, wow, it's still all male directors. Like this needs to change. It's highlighting the institution and the way that it works, and the Oscars is a time that we all focus in on it. Without the Oscars, there'd maybe be less challenging of this industry.
I don't know. I don't think that's fully untrue, but if you think about like this industry and the Oscars has existed for how long? Like
since 19
like
a long time.
Like
sometimes when they flash back
75 years or something like that. Like, it's been there in front of everyone's faces forever. The only reason it's being called out now is because, like, in our contemporary world, we're acknowledging these problems. And so the fact that the Oscars shows us these inequalities, it's like, is a moot point because it always has, and no one said anything about it until the last, like, 5 years, maybe.
What do you mean? Wait, clarify that.
Well, you're just saying, like, it's so great because we can see that it's all male directors, and now that's why we're calling this out. It's like, no, it's not. It's always been all male directors. Every year for the last 75 years, we've seen that there's been massive inequalities in the people who win these things and who get acknowledged for these things.
It hasn't
I'm
changed.
saying it hasn't changed. We're only, as a society, we've changed, and this is like an old beast of society that we're going, okay, that's really problematic. Like, the fact that it's being aired isn't what's making the change. It's what people are saying is the problem.
Okay,
it's the problem, not.
I see what you're saying.
I have a quote I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
By a famous scientist, Richard Feynman, and he had a very strong feelings on like honors and epaulets, like awards that people.
It is kind of weird that we
get.
watch these awards of all of them.
So I'm gonna read his quote because I like it.
Okay.
So he says, "I don't like."
I read that as I don't like boners, but what does it say?
Honors.
Okay.
I don't like honors. I'm appreciated for the work that I did and for the people who appreciate it, and I notice that other physicists use my work. I don't need anything else. I don't think there's any sense to anything else. I don't see that it makes any point that someone in the Swedish Academy decides that this work is noble enough to receive a prize.
Wow, Drake Sweden.
I've already got the prize. The prize is the pleasure of finding the thing out, the kick in the discovery, the observation that other people use it. Those are the real things. The honors are unreal to me. I don't believe in honors. It bothers me. Honors is epaulets. Epaulets is uniforms. So I feel like that's a specific look into like the Nobel Prize space.
That's interesting.
But
yeah.
I think it speaks to the honor and reward of creating a film, of acting in a film, of producing music. Like that should be your reward. And I understand like it feels great to be acknowledged for your work, and I don't know that I can fully feel this way that Richard Feynman does, but there is a point, especially with science. It's like you shouldn't only be looking for discoveries to be rewarded.
Clearly, Richard Feynman went to therapy. He was an evolved person, it seems like.
Right,
he was able to get
the
that.
craft is what brings you the reward, and if you're only doing it for the fame and the acknowledgement, isn't that what perpetuates a part of society that is also pretty toxic in the first place?
The quote from Richard Feynman had us thinking about how the Nobel Prize has quite a few similarities to the Oscars, including that it's a system that can be gamed, manipulated, and may not always be grounded in merit. We came across an article, 10 Simple Rules to Win a Nobel Prize, on ways to enhance your odds, and here are a few of our favorites. First up, pick your family carefully. 7 children of Nobel Prize winners have gone on to win the prize themselves, and 4 married couples have jointly won the prize. That includes Marie Curie and her husband Pierre, who won in physics in 1903, while their daughter Arine and her husband Frederic won the chemistry prize in 1935. Wow, what a smart family. If you don't have a Nobel Prize winning mom and dad, maybe you could work in a lab of a previous prize winner. Working in a prestigious lab could give you a boost. For example, the Medical Research Council laboratory in Cambridge, UK has pumped out 9 winners. Or you could study biology. There are 3 STEM categories you can win an award in. The first is physiology or medicine, which is all one category. The second is chemistry, and the third is physics. With these categories in mind, biologists actually have a leg up. The physiology medicine category has been won continually by biologists, but about half of all chemistry winners are actually biologists as well. If biology isn't your thing, collaborate, but only in groups of 3. Collaborating on a project can bring diverse ideas and unique skill sets to a project, but only 3 people can go on a winning ticket. This often leads to researchers being excluded, like in the scientists who worked on the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory project, which detected cosmic gravitational waves.
Say that 3 times fast.
The actual number of contributing scientists on that project was literally 3 pages long, but only 3 got the prize. It also doesn't hurt to always be nice to Swedish scientists. According to the author, several laureates had their prize severely delayed by picking a fight with the wrong person, aka the wrong Swedish Nobel Committee member. All this aside, of course, being a good scientist matters. Ask good questions, find new methods to investigate them, and look for unexpected results and stay curious.
Yeah, but I would say that I do think it's interesting that he says that, especially about science. I think it would be so interesting if science had an award show where the public got to actually see these amazing discoveries, because science is something I think needs to be more in the public consciousness at all times. But unfortunately, or fortunately, we look at the arts and pop culture as something that more people are interested in. And yeah, you could say that for the actual person winning the award, like Brad Pitt or whatever, that maybe he shouldn't care about the award show. But I'm talking about the impact that it has on society. And I think
I can agree with that.
If for example, the
science.
Swedish Academy and like the Nobel Prize, if people
like
watch that in
phenomenon.
like the way that they watch the Oscars, I would be arguing that that's a great thing because people are absorbing this really important information about science and like the evolution of human mind and like the world around us. But they aren't. Well, some people really care about it, but the Oscars, people care about it. And so what I like about it is that it takes in many ways, not when we think of Vice Greenbaugh and Bohemian Rhapsody, but it takes these movies that I think can be really important for people to see that are about queer stories from different perspectives that are...
I guess that's my only argument that I'd say is that it often doesn't. Like, yes, there are times in recent history, some movies that have won tell stories that are very different than the ones that would have won through the last however many decades. But I think it's more like, to me, that the Oscars follows the trend of what they need to be doing and they lag behind, and they're not helping to define and expose people. They're saying, oh, geez, for whatever reason, this movie is a cultural phenomenon, and if we don't acknowledge it, we'll be seen as bad people.
Yeah, you're right. I think that they are definitely like not moving
It would be amazing if they were like often when I watch the Oscar movies, like the ones that I think are the best and most impactful aren't the ones that are winning necessarily. Like there's so many.
I hope Roma wins. I do think
and that's a great example. There's so many foreign films that I end up watching that I'm like,
it's
and then there's just the one little category for foreign films, and it's like,
true.
But that's the rest of the world. And I get that it's an American.
But Hollywood they're trying to balance between like art house films and then the films that actually like the general
public. But it doesn't feel
loves.
like a balance to me. It's all Hollywood.
I
films.
think they're doing an okay balance, and I think to say this. And how I'll end is I'm saying I think they shouldn't go away because I think there's a lot of hope for them as they diversify the actual Academy to become an award show that in the future props up movies that are challenging, props up movies that can go down in history as really helping to like define and progress the arts and the way that people look at the world. And I hope that is the case. And I can see a glimmer of that happening in the last few years of the Oscars. But I know that they can be problematic, but that's just what the stance that I'm taking.
Because also think about like what we haven't really touched on. I tried to, and one of my points was like the amount of money and campaigning that goes into winning is irrespective of how good the movie is.
It's like. In September, they talked about
that Shakespeare in Love spent $16 million
That's Harvey Weinstein's baby
to promote a film. Like some movies don't even have that budget to make the film that could still be amazing movies.
I know. Okay, that's a really good point. I do think that's insane. And I've read a few really intense articles about the actual pathway to winning an Oscar, and it's wild. You have to go to all these luncheons.
How much press
it's literally like a political campaign. The money, the power, the energy. I do not think that that's interesting. I do not think that should be the case.
And it certainly doesn't lead to the best film winning.
No, it does not.
Almost, in fact, it does the opposite.
No, but I
because
like
the films that have the bigger budgets are more likely to win.
I think that's a very good point, and I just think and hope that in the future that can be like curbed a little bit by the fact that the Academy, these 8,000 people, get to choose from hopefully some progressive movies and have that shine through. But you're right, there's a lot of money that's spent behind them, and it's actually embarrassing. But I do think the Oscars should continue, and I will be watching as someone who's loved them my whole life. But I can see why.
I will be watching. I mean, I'll probably hear about it. I don't mind. I don't like absolutely hate it, but I'm just like, all award shows to me are a little bit
It's funny.
silly.
Whenever I've watched the Oscars with you, you're always like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, and I'm like, you convince me every year. You're like, no, it's so fun.
It's going to be fun. Then you're sitting
like
through that
an hour
slog
in,
of it.
You're like, wait, I'm literally just listening to people say names of people I don't know. I haven't seen most of these things.
But every once in a while, it's worth it.
Okay, but it's like now YouTube exists. It's like the next day I'm going to see all the best clips, but yet somehow I'm still tricked into watching the award show for 4 hours.
Well, okay. So people out there, young audience who's probably like, what's the Oscars? Like, let us know. If you'll be watching the Oscars, let us know what you think about this year's Oscar movies.
And gonna win?
Do you think the Oscars should be
Let
canceled?
us know, though.
What?
Prop up our podcast by talking about the Oscars, even though I hate them.
Well, no, let us know if you think they should continue, because I think
true.
this could be an interesting debate. Even looking it up online, so many people talk about this because it is such an interesting, potentially problematic award show. Mm-hmm. So make sure you follow us on @SideNotePod or @MitchellMoffat @WhaleWatchMePLZ. And I think the Oscars will be around for a long time, whether we like it or not.
We'll see. I'm curious. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in the next week.
Boo.
Bye.